All right, you're here with us again. This is Zach and
Jay.
Zach and Jay, and
Yep.
you are here with the Breath of Fresh Controversy podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the immigration topic, a little bit of a hot button topic, especially in the last 4 or 5 years with the Trump administration. And we're going to kind of dive into that from both angles, both sides, and maybe a new perspective as well as something we usually like to contribute and tackle with these forums. So, Jay, I'll let you kind of lead and dive in here.
So I hope everyone who's going to give this one a listen, I hope you'll have, first of all, for a lot of these things, you need to have a little bit of patience. And I hope that you'll have patience for this one because, again, we like to tell all sides, or at least as many sides as we can think of or deal with on various issues, where sometimes you get people who are all one way or all the other, and they're leaving out all kinds of information. Well, today we like to really kind of look at things, I like to think, a little more broadly than you're getting from the general mainstream media.
To add there, too,
Sure.
If you think we are not offering a certain perspective, I open up this forum to anyone and everyone. So if you want to come on here to the podcast, reach out to us. We'd be happy to have you on and represent a perspective that we maybe are not presenting very well, or you don't think we're presenting very well, and we can kind of hash it out on the mic.
Or put some comments on the space below.
Absolutely.
For references of different places you'd want us to look at certain facts or figures, perhaps something that you've come across. So for me, I think that if people really care and really want to fix problems, you got to do it comprehensively. And that was, so what I'm trying to say is it's a little of this and a little of that. It's not all one thing or the other. And I think that a lot of people have no idea what's really been going on here. And I think that we're all just busy people. And so you only know a little bit here and a little bit there, and people don't really look at the whole picture. So we're going to try to give kind of a whole picture here today, offer some solutions. They probably won't be enacted, by the way. Okay, so right now, Donald Trump is going into, I don't know, I guess he's going into his 4th year as president. Yep, I believe so. So there's been controversy with Donald Trump. I don't know if Donald Trump has handled everything properly, and I don't know how sincere he is on anything that he said. He brought up the border wall on his State of the Union thing. I wonder if all the things he said about the border wall were actually accurate. There's been a wall and there's been barriers up for years before Donald Trump got there. So own that, everybody. There's been a border patrol. There's been this thing called ICE, immigration something, whatever. I mean, that's existed before Donald Trump. So is it just so weird? All of a sudden Donald Trump gets in, and because he talks about building a wall, then all of a sudden everybody cares, when there's all kinds of speeches out there from both Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all kinds of Democrats talking tough about border control and in immigration. So I don't understand this overly PC attitude that just Donald Trump has suddenly provoked since 2016 from people. It's very strange. For me, I'm cynical about things that Donald Trump has said that make sense, that perhaps are necessary, and a lot of Americans have been thinking about for a long time. I think that a lot of Americans, I don't know that this is purely a Democrat-Republican issue at all, by the way. So that's just the first thing I want to bring that up. That is just complete and utter fallacy. I don't know about the people who are listening right now, but I'm sure if they're honest, they probably can relate to this. I've known Republican business owners who have loved a whole bunch of these, say, illegal immigrants coming from Mexico to work in their factories, to help keep wages down. They've loved this, and I know them, and I know they vote Republican. At least they say they do. So when you tell me this is all some of the Republicans are anti-illegal immigration, no, that's not exactly true at all. Many corporatists out there, by the way, have been pro this. They wanted to keep wages down. And if you tell me all Democrats are for illegal immigration or more immigrants coming in, no, that's just not true either. I've known all kinds of working class people who will vote Democrat and who are against all this immigration coming in. People they feel taking their jobs away. There's insecurity there. So this whole Democrat Republican thing, left right thing, has been really played and manipulated a lot. It's been really bizarre. I would just like to bring up some of the problems and maybe some of the solutions on this whole situation, and I want to just talk about things as they probably really are, whether people like it or don't like it. And I just want to be very real. First of all, I want to state something here, and I am not trying to provoke anyone. I'm not trying to incite anyone at all. And I'm not even trying to, and the opposite of that, I'm not trying to directly promote what I'm about to say. I'm just saying, I think if you look at the statistics, this is probably objective reality. The United States of America has become more Hispanic, okay, over recent decades, let's say last 30 or 40 years, and the United States is going to become even more Hispanic going forward. And that is not, again, either yay or nay. That's just objective reality.
Yeah.
If you look at the absolute numbers. I happen to know, anecdotally speaking, several quote unquote, what do you want to say, Caucasian Americans dating or marrying and making babies with people of Hispanic backgrounds, Hispanic Americans.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people out there know that. So there's going to be more and more of that going forward.
Yeah.
In fact, I would make the bold prediction here in the very near future. You're going to see the Republican Party probably put its arm around Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez and Mr. and Mrs. Garcia and Mr. and Mrs. Fernandez very, very soon. If you haven't seen it enough, you're going to see it. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, right. I think you're definitely onto something there, because I think a lot of what the Republican Party sort of stands for, or traditional conservatism, I guess, is something that aligns very heavily with the family values and the kind of values that the Latino family and the Latino community champion. So, and I've noticed that a lot with widely with when I talk to a lot of my Latino friends. It's only when I am on like a college campus, speaking to someone who's of Latino heritage, that I find that sort of differs, but it's like everyone on a college campus kind of leans liberal. But in regular towns, regular life, most, like, I know a lot more Latinos that were pro-Trump than are anti-Trump, and that's a really weird thing to kind of think about when you think about how all the information is sort of presented. And I don't say that in favor of Trump myself. I don't like Trump at all, but as far as things that I've noticed, and this is very, like you said, anecdotal and subjective. So, but I do think that when you look at the Latino community and the values that they promote and live,
Right.
they heavily lean towards a conservative base.
Yeah, very
So
pro-family.
It's almost like
Yes.
the left has used the immigration thing to keep the Latinos from voting, or really making that move, right?
Yeah,
it's sort of, that's the crux of how they've kind of have kept them on their leash, or reined them in, is this whole immigration thing. And like you said before, it's like illegal immigration has helped corporate America more than anyone.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you what? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding here, and I think that what's important is that we really need to put this in a proper context, and that is that Mexico is our neighbor, and this is really what you don't hear enough of, and this is what it would be nice if Donald Trump or the next president, whoever he or she may be, I don't know, would address this, because Mexico has problems, and Mexico is our neighbor. And you just think about your neighbor. If your neighbor has a ton of problems, okay, they might spill over to your yard, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to make this in as basic and as simplest terms as I can. And that, I think a lot of that has been what has been happening here. And sadly, our government, our businesses have been just sort of exploiting it. Instead of trying to help or fix, they want to exploit it. And it's really, really sad, because in the big picture, there needs to be some real fixing here. And so first of all, I want to say to the modern day left, who come out with all of their weirdness and their hate. A lot of you people are just really freaking nuts. I want to be very clear. Every nation state in this world has a right to have its borders, have its own immigration policy, and to see fit how they want to control their immigration policy, see fit how they want to control their borders. Every sovereign nation state in the world. I don't know how that isn't basic governmental 101. I don't get that. There have been walls and barriers and all kinds of things built all throughout history, okay? And borders defended in different ways all throughout history. That doesn't make someone racist or xenophobic and all these phobics and this and that. We have a situation that at times has been rather uncontrollable. It kind of has an ebb and a flow. I don't know. Donald Trump was bragging it was down the other day. I don't know if that's even accurate. There was people in different articles that were challenging that, so I'm a little confused as to what the truth is, what's fake news on that. But a lot of people say Bill Clinton unlocked the back door, and that George W. Bush swung the back door wide open. So I don't know how the 90s and the 2000s add up there, but those that's some of the saying is how things have been going. For me personally, I'm just a regular Joe, folks out there. I don't have PhD this and PhD that, and some guy who's got tenure at some university and he's hidden away from the real world. I'm a real guy, live in the real world, and I'll just give you a little story about me. I started at a company working at a factory in the late 90s, and there was maybe 10-20% population was Hispanic, mostly people from Mexico, but there were some Ecuadorians there, and some from some other Central American countries and South American countries a little bit. But anyway, and I had a certain attitude, and maybe it was a little bit, I want to admit it, a little bit anti-immigrant at the time, a little bit. And then I worked there at this place for over 10 years. And by the time I left there, the Hispanic population was probably about almost I'd say 85-90% of the people that worked there. So it went from like 10-20% to about 85-90% of the people that worked there.
Wow.
And just being with people, talking with people, and again, people being real with each other, you learn a lot. And I learned a lot. And over time, I started to pay attention to more things, and I had a whole kind of evolution, and I saw more of a bigger picture as to what was really going on. And what I think, so much of our news media, again, this could go down the road of conspiracy. I won't get maybe too much into that, but I mean, well, think what you may.
Go for it.
I mean, think what you may. I mean, there's definitely some conspiracies attached to all of this, and again, I think there's been several agendas going on here. One is, again, instead of us having a neighbor that has problems and we should want to help that neighbor. Just think about this for a second, folks. My generation, not so much Zach's generation, but my generation, we grew up with this whole communism, domino effect, Soviets are going to take over the world and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, why would you want Mexico to be poor and corrupt, your neighbor to be poor and corrupt? Because they're poor and corrupt, they could be more susceptible to communism. There was that. And then we get into the more of the modern age, and we get into terrorism and worry about jihad and whatnot. Well, why would you want your neighbor to be poor and corrupted where possible terrorists could come in through your neighboring country to hurt you? I mean, there's all kinds of important, again, national security issues. If people really believe in this national security stuff, as we've been preached to for many, many years,
Right. I mean, who better to get in and out of our nation than illegal immigrants if they've gotten so good at it for the years? I mean, that's another way to kind of look at that stuff too. What you just said is huge because I think the numbers are something like 20 million illegal immigrants over the course of the last 10-15 years or something like that.
Well, you'd have to look that up. I know numbers. I know. Yeah.
I don't think that's something to just scoff at and not. It's something. The reason why we're talking about this, it's something, and it's talked about is Because that's a lot of people, man. It's a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so
And I don't know if your 20 million number is correct. You'd have to look that up. I
I
know
think it's at least 15 million.
I know the numbers 10 to 13 were thrown a lot around by the regular media. That's been thrown around quite a bit. But so, and so we're saying, so even let's just round that around. Let's say we have around 15 million people who are illegal or undocumented, as some want to say.
Central American.
Okay. In our country, I by the way, just to broaden that just briefly, I'd say we probably have more than that, and I'm not just talking people of Mexican or Central or South American descent. There's a lot of people, Asian people, who are smuggled into our country as well. There's all kinds of human trafficking going on that I think is completely disturbing.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wonder where all of our budgets and all of our funding for different security things and different intelligence agencies, where it's all really going.
Yeah.
And why so much of this, it seems the traffickers are being so successful. It's really kind of amazing and really sad. But I think so. The real number, when you get into all undocumented people in our country, is probably well over 15 million. But anyway, today we're just kind of concentrating on Mexico and the Mexican border. So you look at the situation, and you really find, and as I said, in my experience, I learned a lot from being with people, working with people, talking to people about their experiences, and you really get a whole different vibe, and you find things out, and my whole attitude kind of evolved and kind of saw this bigger, broader picture, that here was this neighbor of ours that has this very corrupt government, and it's mostly been corrupted by the drug cartels, and then it trickles down to their people and hurts their people, and then they have this whole corrupt society, and people are very poor, and then people are coming here because they're looking for a better way of life, and we're right here, we're their neighbor, and boom, we're right here. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't people, risk, take that chance, and try to scale a wall? Or people have gone underneath tunnels and stuff off the border of Southern California.
Yeah.
They found different drug tunnels been dug, and why wouldn't people do that? I mean, we need to think about, why are people coming here, and that's what really annoys me about people that talk about this issue, but they never really want to get into that. And I think that should be number one. Why are they coming here? Yeah. Obviously, we are a great country. We have a lot of freedom and economic opportunity, but things are bad in their homeland. And that is what needs to be talked more about and dealt with more directly, in my view.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be hard for anyone to disagree with you. It's like what is the counter argument to that? What is the counter argument to fixing Mexico? And giving them a stable country and a stable government that's lived outside of the fear of the drug cartels. What is the counter argument there? It's like, no, I want to have Molly and cocaine at the EDM festival. Sorry. You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Drug cartels, love them, love my drugs.
I mean,
that is ultimately sort of I think that's another reason why so much of the liberals sort of turn a blind eye. I mean, everyone, not just the liberals, is we all love our drugs. We all love our drugs at the expense of ruining some of our Central American neighboring countries, and we don't give a shit. Okay, we don't give a shit about them. We want to pretend we give a shit, but we don't. We don't.
And think about
we want them to have to grovel their way here, okay, through whatever extremities, and then work for less than minimum wage, which we want to complain about ourselves, but then it's like, no, it's okay that they're here working for whatever, It's like, and all the expense of what? So the drug cartels can make money, so the CIA can make money under the table, and so all you stupid hipsters can have your Molly and your cocaine and all this bullshit, and you make sure you got your fucking weed.
Yeah.
You've been partying on the expense. All you liberals and non-liberals, all you people that are partying on all these drugs have been doing so at the expense of illegal immigrants.
There you go.
Okay? And no one likes to spin it that way. No one wants to think about it that way.
These are the dirty little secrets that nobody really wants to lift up the rug and see how dirty things really are.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to hopefully try to do here on this forum as long as we can until they shut us down. We'll see. But yeah, there's lots of nasty angles to this, and I've seen a lot of weird and interesting little conspiracies. This is a minor one. I won't say it's a major. I really don't know how many billions we're talking about. And again, billions ultimately will add up to trillions. But there was a thing for a long time where some workers, undocumented workers, would use false Social Security numbers. Okay? Yeah. So, and the place that I worked, they actually eventually found out about a bunch of these people that were doing this, and then they had to like fire them, and then some came back and got rehired, but they did it through a temp agency. Then it became the temp agency's responsibility and not the company's responsibility to have to check people out. A lot of areas for corruption there, big time. But so I asked the HR person at this one company, I said, so now when you send that money to the Social Security Administration, and you found out that this guy, later that wasn't his real name, and he was using a false Social Security number, did the Social Security Administration ever send you money back? No. Oh, God. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. America, did you catch that, folks? That's right. Democrats and Republicans have gone in, borrowed from our Social Security Trust Fund, which they never should have been allowed to do unless there was a national emergency. Look it up. It's happened more than once. They've done this. In the meantime, by the way, they've let in a lot of illegal immigrants to our country, some of whom have used false Social Security numbers to get certain jobs. Then that employer would send some Social Security money to the Social Security Administration, but that money would never be paid out, you see, to that immigrant. There are actually Mexican-American organizations within our country, I think one's called La Raza, that wants to make sure that those undocumented or illegal immigrants get that Social Security money, and then you open a huge can of worms, and you got regular Americans saying, no, they shouldn't get that money. I mean, the whole thing, it just gets a huge mess.
Yeah.
But you see where a government entity, our Social Security Administration, they've made money. They have made some money off of this game that's been going on. It's probably still going on right now as we speak. So, now, do I think that's the whole thing? No, I don't. You brought up the CIA, and I didn't go there yet, but folks, I want to bring up this one issue, and I hope that we revisit this on other ones. I have certain things that drive me up a frickin' wall, and we'll repeat these other times. But folks, when you think of the insane amount of money that the United States government spends on its military, and then you think of how successful the huge drug cartels have been, and there are some in Mexico, there's some in Colombia, there's some in Southeast Asia, and of course, once they become super big, they could have a worldwide network. But I'm just talking about their travel routes and where some of the substances come from. Okay, a lot of cocaine, I think, comes from Colombia. A lot of heroin comes from Southeast Asia. Anyway. So, ladies and gentlemen, you got Donald Trump and you've had other presidents and, all military. What are you doing with it? We're spending all this money and nobody's doing anything with it. I mean, this has driven me freaking crazy for years. I mean, what you're saying to me, the scum in the media who makes high six figures, many into seven figures a year. We brought that up in another show before. Huge money these people make for what? They come in there, you put a suit on, they pancake makeup on, and they read off a teleprompter. And you're going to pay these people $1 million a year once they become popular enough, like a Bill O'Reilly or Matt Lauer. I know you're going, okay, why is he talking about that? Because I'm telling you, why am I bringing this up? Why didn't they bring this up 20 years ago? Yeah. Where were they? Oh, because once they get so big, they don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make people.
It's your job as a journalist. To do some digging, and these people are not digging. They're not digging at all.
Yeah, and
that's why it just becomes so fake, and it becomes as fake as the makeup they pancake on their face before they get on camera. It's so put on.
There you go. It's all corporate. It's all fake. And once you get to a certain level and you're making that big money, and by the way, corporate sponsors, pay me the big money. Maybe I'll shut up too. Maybe I'll come as plastic as Matt Lauer. Maybe I can get a place in the Hamptons. Okay, maybe I have a price. I don't know, because I don't know. But the point is this. The point is this.
$70 million.
We have all this money. We have all this money that we really don't have. We're borrowing it to have this huge military, and then we're not using it. And then the drug cartels are supplying all the money here. Ironically enough, the greatest country in the world, and yet we're the biggest, drug users. We have the biggest demand here, which is another issue of great sadness, great sorrow, and great irony. And yet they're outsmarting us. So they're outsmarting our CIA, outsmarting the FBI, outsmarting especially their buddies, the DEA, and everybody else and every other intelligence group out there. I mean, and these organizations, folks, the FBI, CIA, they have multi-billion-dollar budgets. Where's it all going? Yeah. What are they all doing? But the drug cartels, they're just that much smarter. You think about it, folks. I thought our CIA is supposed to be, M16, James Bond, cutting edge, techno, blah, 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 blah. But, these drug dealers, these cartels, oh, man, what they got better technology than we do? I mean, think about it. Think about the reality, folks, of the money that gets spent on intelligence, on military hardware, on our technology. And then think about the drug cartels. They're outsmarting us. They're beating us. You have these people that just kind of wash their hands and they make movies. And 20 years ago, Steven, I don't remember his name, Soderbergh, he's a good director. And he made a movie called Traffic. And it's a good movie. And a lot of people are in it. And it shows all the demand. And it shows all kinds of different angles from law enforcement to the drug dealers themselves. And, and Lorenzo Lamas or whoever the guy was. I probably the wrong actor. And he's hidden money in no, it's probably not him. It's a different actor, but he's hidden money in maybe it's Antonio Banderas. I don't know. He's hidden money in a painting, in the house. He's trying to tell his wife, he's trying to give her some code to get it to cut into this painting and get this some money hidden away in there. I mean, all this is going on. I get it. I'm not saying we could shut it all down. I just cannot believe that the drug cartels are this big. I cannot believe that we can't do more than we do. Yeah. I think it's a joke. I think it's a game. And I think the American people are smarter than this. I'm talking to everybody. You Democrats, you Republicans, you Independents. I'm talking to everybody out there, young and old, rich and poor. I don't care what color you are, whatever skin pigmentation you have. All of you, think about it. These drug cartels are outsmarting us. Does that make any sense to you? Just think about that for a second, folks.
Yeah. Think about somebody that doesn't even have a high school education. Okay? Like, think about that. Like, most of these people do not have a high school equivalent education. Okay? And most of Americans do. Okay? So it's like, those are the people who are outsmart. Think of somebody that didn't even graduate high school. They flunked high school. Okay? They flunked out. That's may even be above the intelligence level of some of these cartels, and those are the people who are outsmarting everyone you just listed up, DEA, FBI, CIA, and all the funding that we give them, right? And I think you hit it on the head. We can be doing better, and we should hold these agencies to a higher standard. I would much rather see whoever we put in the White House to hold all of these agencies and everything that we do as a country to a higher standard, because we're failing on so many different areas. We are absolutely failing on so many different areas.
And this is where, folks, if you hear somebody on a conspiracy show say deep state, you're like, oh, deep state, yeah, think about that for a second. Why don't you really think about that? Oh, the person we elect every 4 years, they come into town. Yeah, they're going to come in. They're going to take on the deep state. Really? Really, folks? Really? Kind of interesting. Whether you get the donkeys in or the elephants in, a lot of things really don't change too much. Yeah. There's a lot of promises, a lot of hope, and blah, 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 blah. But then at the end of the day, the drugs just keep coming in. What? What's going on? What is going on, people? So
I think here's a fair point I want to bring up as far as to just kind of piggyback on everything else that you've talked about. Your grandfathers and my great grandfathers, defeated the Nazis in a couple of years, okay, and they were more of a rival power at that time, right? They weren't these drug cartels with limited resources and limited, and this goes to it took us over a decade to kill Osama bin Laden, okay, and the drug war has been going on since the 90s. Maybe later
Oh
than that?
no, no,
Longer than that?
well, it started really in the '70s. They really called it the war on drugs in the '80s.
Yeah.
It's a big campaign of the
And
war on drugs.
and we've been spending billions on this war
Every
on
year,
drugs.
which adds up to trillions.
Right, right. Over the course of 30, 40 years becomes
Right.
trillions of
Yeah,
dollars.
give it a good 40 years of what is. I mean, it goes way back.
Yeah.
Okay, but definitely the heat has been on in the last 40 years, and definitely more and more cocaine and heroin have come into our country
Yeah.
than ever
the drug
before.
use has gone up. Right. It's all just gotten worse. So why are we spending all this money on a war that we've clearly lost? If we're going to continue to call it a war, right? And if we're going to call it a war, are we really fighting it? Is there really any initiative to take on the cartels? And is there any initiative to solve the problem of these problems, or is it like where is all this money going? Like there's
Great
a lot of
question.
money over the course of 40 years to be going into something that is getting worse, right? That's a failed expense, okay? That's a failed expense.
There you go.
No one's being held accountable for it whatsoever, And so it's a complete and utter failure. And I think our great grandfathers and our grandfathers are looking down and shaking their heads. They really are. They're not proud of you, America. They're not proud. Okay, we can be doing a lot better. They killed the fucking Nazis, man. They took on the fucking Nazis, and they won a couple years. Okay, it's took us over a decade to find somebody who's a fucking goat shepherd. Okay, and we're letting drug cartels, ruin and spoil the next generation of kids here. The heroin epidemic's become huge. The crack epidemic was huge in the black community for a long time. And these things are going on. The weed, I think, is dumbing everyone down. I don't really know a lot of people that recreational smoking weed, no problem. Recreational drug use, I think, almost across the board might be okay in my book. And we can dive into the whole drug use, drug war thing sometime. I'm really for a lot of recreational use and legalizing a lot of things personally, but I think most people abuse drugs like they abuse alcohol, okay? And I think a lot of the people that I know that smoke way too much weed, okay, they smoke it every day. That's called an addiction, folks, okay? You need something every day to function. That's called an addiction.
Yeah,
you are reliant on a substance to be, and that is wrong, okay?
Right.
You should be able to enjoy it occasionally. Okay, occasionally at events, certain things, certain moments in time, whatever. Okay, to when you're celebrating or something or whatever. Maybe you need a little edge off every now and then, but every fucking day, it's wrong. It's wrong.
It's an addiction.
If somebody drank every day, they're called an alcoholic.
There you go.
Right? So
There you
if you're
go.
smoking weed every day, you're an addict.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're a fucking addict.
Well, I
and that's
think
really
we're
terrible for their. I think it's really bad for their. I've noticed people have terrible memories. For the people that I know that smoke every day, their memory, they like lose memory. It's like their working memory is slower, okay, and their long term memory is like not even. It's almost non-existent, or it's very weak. It's very weak. They have a hard time retaining information and recalling information, and that's huge. I think that's huge. So, but I don't want to rip just on weed. There's a lot more going on here. Cocaine is probably.
We're probably going off the track just a little bit here. But we really brought up the drugs because of the drug cartels and the drug cartels' negative effect on the country of Mexico and Mexican culture. And when again, I think if things were better in Mexico, probably more Mexicans would want to stay in Mexico. I mean, that's just a basic thing. I mean, obviously, everybody and their dog around the world, whether it's Poland or China or wherever, okay, any number of countries, any country in the continent of Africa, any country in South America and the continent of South America, they all want to come here. Okay, everybody wants to come here. So that part is always there too. But this is our neighbor. We should be helping our neighbor, is what we should be doing. And instead, we are exploiting our neighbor's weaknesses and their problems. And it's benefiting certain people in the United States. Not all of us. I don't mean that for 1 second, but certain people in certain high places, they have agendas, and it is benefiting them. And it
Absolutely.
is, and it is a mess.
To go over
It is
what
a
we
mess.
just who is benefiting? We'll go over what we just said. It's benefiting the Social Security. It's benefiting corporate America for cheap labor, and it's probably benefiting some of these Well, it's benefiting whoever's getting paid and making salary off of the drug war, and whoever's job it is in the FBI, CIA, and DEA to look into this stuff. Okay, because they failed. They failed. 40 years. They failed. Fucked up.
But they
No
keep
one,
getting
and,
bigger and bigger budgets.
exactly.
You know?
So,
and so yeah. So big government, big government wins, and the Constitution loses, and they want to be more. They use the drug war as a way to break the Constitution as well. So we need to be careful with that. There's a lot of issues here that are of great concern and great danger, and we'll probably revisit them. But I just want to say, make sure everybody knows. And again, there's Trump lovers out there and Trump haters. I don't think Donald Trump ever said, "Hey, we're not going to let any more Mexicans in our country." I don't think he ever said that. And if he did, folks, please give me the link or give me the reference to where he said this, because I don't believe he's been treated that way though by the left, and it's just been ridiculous. So I want to defend him a little bit on that, but I don't know how sincere he is about fixing any of these problems. I want to be clear about that, and I am very critical of him just as much as I'm critical of all the administrations and how they have piss poorly handled this whole situation with the border. And I think you got to ask yourself: there's people out there who like to mock conspiracy theory. Well, call it a conspiracy theory, call it an agenda, but there's those who are benefiting from this, okay, and they're keeping other people down, and we need to really, really think about that. So when I say comprehensively, I brought that up earlier. What I mean by that is you got to look at all sides of this thing. Again, I believe every country has a right to have its own immigration policy, to defend its borders, or have its own border patrol, or however it wants to do that. And our nation certainly has a right to do that with Mexico or any other country. We have a good relationship with Canada. We should want the same relationship with Mexico. And I think it can be achievable. We have, like we say, at least 10 million people here, probably of Mexican descent, who are here undocumented, illegally, if you want to use that term. Some don't like that term. Maybe it's closer to 15 million. So what needs to happen? Let's think about this. And I think there are some in Washington, and it's probably got some bipartisan support. There needs to be a grand bargain. And I know some people are going to get mad about it. And people are going to say, well, what about those people in Poland? What about those people in India who are going through the right channels and doing everything right? And I hear you. I hear them, and you got a good point. But here's the fact. The fact is those 15 million people are already here. And they need to make some fast track way for those people to have citizenship in our country, or unless they want to leave. I mean, it's up to them. But obviously there'd be some kind of tax or some kind of penalty that they would have to pay, for example, to do that. But we have a census. They're going to do a census every 10 years. They're going to do one this year. And I mean, just that alone is kind of a joke when you have such a illegal immigration or undocumented worker, whatever you want to call it, situation in your country. And we do. We have people here, like I say, not just from countries like Mexico, but from a lot of Asian countries as well, who are smuggled into our country. There's all kinds of human trafficking going on. And it's just kind of, a little bit ironic, a little bit of a joke that every 10 years we're going to do a census and go around and try to figure out how many people are actually here. But yet we have this illegal activity going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think they need to make a grand bargain. And they need to allow a way for those 15 million that are here to have a fast track to citizenship. Obviously, would be some fee would need to be involved in that. I think there's nothing wrong with a country saying English is our official language. There's nothing wrong with that. However, let's just flip it around. The world's getting smaller all the time, which also should be said by someone like a Donald Trump or the next president, whoever he or she might be. That all native-born Americans who know English as their main language, they should also learn a second language, whether it's Spanish or the world we're in right now, probably Chinese, probably some either Mandarin
I don't know.
or Cantonese.
High schools are really stuck on that French. I really don't know how useful that's going to be. Should be
No.
Chinese, should be German, should be Russian. What the hell, man? Spanish is understandable because it's over 20% of our population, I think, or something is Latino, and so that makes sense because it's a little closer to home. But I don't understand why we're still learning French. That blows my mind.
Don't
I
want
agree.
to. Don't want to criticize any of the French, but learning Chinese, it should be more of an American
Priority.
Priority,
Yeah,
absolutely. A
yeah.
goal or
Or learning
priority.
a second language. You know, when you go to Europe or you go to other countries, most of people around the world speak more than one language. You know, that's not to say that they don't have a primary language.
Right,
Okay,
right.
yeah, I completely understand there. Or yeah, I think a lot of people on the left get mad when they're like, "Oh, English is America doesn't have an official language." Like it does. It's English. Sorry, dude. Sorry. That doesn't mean
Yeah,
you shouldn't learn
yeah.
Spanish. That doesn't
Right,
mean you shouldn't learn Chinese or
right,
German or French or whatever you want.
right.
It doesn't
And
mean
if
that
you
that's
go to certain Hispanic
it's silly.
countries, Spanish is the main language. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to go to, Saudi Arabia, you're going to have to learn to speak their Arabic language. I mean, I don't
I
understand.
just took a trip to Japan recently, and the language barrier was a big deal. And when I walked around, I didn't expect everyone to speak English. You know what I mean? And nor should you. I should have. I wish I would have picked up more Japanese before I'd gone there, and I knew a little bit, but not. It was difficult to communicate. So I had a translator most of the time, or I tried to have somebody with me that spoke more fluent Japanese. But no, I think. Yeah, the whole idea that English isn't the American language is silly, and all countries have that. You know, all countries have a language.
So for me, I think there are actually some politicians in Washington who would be for something like this. There needs to be some kind of grand bargain, and the 15 million or so illegal immigrants or undocumented workers, or however you want to say it, from Mexico primarily that are here. There should be some fast track to citizenship again. So people who are maybe coming over from Czechoslovakia, or from England, or from Hungary, or from Japan, okay, who want a citizenship, are going through the legal proper channels. You might say, well, that's not fair to them. Look, I'm just saying this is the way we need to clean up this mess that we have, and it's kind of like possession is 9/10 of the law. So this is my opinion here. I know it's a little bit controversial, but at the same time, we need to have real control over our border. And we really haven't. And Donald Trump doesn't even properly address it. What's going on for years, folks? Yeah, they put some barriers, there's some walls, there's an ICE, there's Border Patrol. But you know what? A lot of Border Patrol is what? I mean, let's say it. They're corrupt. Ooh, you can't say that, huh? No, I'm not saying all of them are. I'm not saying all the local cops in your town are corrupt. But there's some, because how have these people come through? Okay, that's the primary thing. Just like there are some bad cops out there, not most of them by any means. It's a very small amount. But our border patrol apparently same thing. Look again what they're probably getting paid compared to what the drug cartels can offer them. Okay, just think about it. Do the economic math of it. Okay, that's what a lot of people do. It's sad, but just like with prohibition and other things that have gone on over the years, there you go.
Yeah.
Somebody gets a little, something under the table, and
Absolutely.
you let that truck go through with illegal immigrants, or that truck goes through with a bunch of cocaine, and you look the other way, and
yeah. I think another really important thing to bring up when we talk about all this kind of stuff is the effectiveness of the wall concept is just so silly. And when you look at how a lot of illegal immigrants get here too, it's something like 60% come on work visas. They come on work visas, and then the way a work visa works, to my understanding, is they're here for a number of years, they're allowed to work and everything. But then when that visa is expired, there's nobody that like comes and holds your hand and walks you back to your country. Okay, you're kind of expected to go home on your own, and what's happening is they don't. So it's something over the course of the last 30 years or something. 60% of illegal immigrants come over via work visas, and they just don't go back home, right? Or they keep trying to re-up their work visa, right? But they're still not a migrant. They're not a legal citizen, right? So even though it's sort of legal for them to do that, to be here on a work visa. Once that work visa is up, a lot of them just stay here. And I actually know quite a few people who are like that. I'm obviously not gonna give names on the air, but I know some people up here in the Midwest who are living under those circumstances and everything. So that's also something to consider. And a wall will not protect us from that. Right? A wall will not protect you from, maybe protect is the wrong word, but a wall is not going to keep people from staying here once their work visa is up. And I think that's a huge crux of the issue too.
If they're flying into the country to begin with, you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, they're flying in here to begin with. Exactly. So it's kind of like, and then, well, that can kind of go down a dark path too, because then like who's going to come and grab you and snag you and take you back if you don't go back on your own? It's like,
Well, I mean,
I'm not. I'm
I
not
guess
saying
that's ICE's job, I guess.
right.
I'm not really,
Right. You know,
I don't,
it becomes. It all goes back to the core issue. I think is that if they had a country, they could come here to work, and then they have the if they had a country and a home that they wanted to go back to, we wouldn't have the problem of them staying here and then having all the legal issues and needing something like ICE, all that kind of stuff. It kind of comes back to what we were talking about before about they need a country that they feel safe in, comfortable in, all that kind of stuff. You know, they need that.
yeah, and that's
so,
what the left, I think, doesn't understand this whole situation. I mean,
Yeah.
they want to get mad at Donald Trump, but it's like, well, what are these people leaving? They're leaving these bad countries, not just Mexico. Now we're going to broaden the topic a little bit more. Now they're leaving other countries, and let's face it, you lefties, you need to be honest. A lot of these countries need bloody revolutions. I mean, that's a sad reality. There's been groups in Mexico that tried to do some stuff. Zapatistas in the western part of the country, I guess, they tried to do some stuff unsuccessfully, and it's very sad. But again, there are a number of different angles here. So everybody who's mad about this issue or passionate about this issue, I hope you will at least think about some of these other things we've touched upon today. There's a lot we haven't really touched on. I mean, there's also the lazy American, okay, whose ancestors have been here multiple generations. I'll give you an example, and this is okay. This is the truth, okay. So with this at this one barbershop in southern, well, I won't say where we're at, but anyway, with this one barbershop in this one part of the country, and this guy talks about he's got a big lawn care service. And there's some real nice lakes where there's these mansions on these lakes, and they have a bunch of lawn care people. Well, the guy who owns the lawn care thing, he ends up hiring a lot of illegal aliens. You know why? Because they show up. They show up. They want the money. Of course, he's paying them under the table. Probably paying them under, less than minimum wage. I don't know. But anyway, he's paying them. Because why? Because he used to hire the white. Yeah, I'm going to rip on the white guy now. I'm a white guy. The white college kids. But you know what? In the summertime, what are a lot of white college kids doing? They're drinking a lot. So then they show up late for work, or they show up real hungover. Yeah, you see? But the Mexican guy, who's, even if he's the illegal immigrant, he shows up. He wants to work. He wants to make that money.
Smile on his face, man. He's not all hungover. Oh, I should be getting paid more than this, man.
I mean,
I'm better than this. It's like
this is the reality.
Character's gonna suck if you're gonna have that kind of mentality in life, man.
This is the reality, and a lot of people. I remember George W. Bush. He really wanted to tiptoe around. He's like, we need to let some of these these people, undocumented people in here, because they want to do the jobs Americans don't want to do. Because he wanted to say it real gently, okay? But we don't have to be gentle here in this forum. At least I hope we don't have to. We got to tell it like it is. So this concept of an immigrant who wants to come here and mooch off our country, and there's some of that goes on. I'm not saying there isn't, but most immigrants are coming here wanting to work hard, wanting to make money, wanting to send money back home in many cases because things are so bad, and they want to send money back to their families. And they're looking for the American dream, and so there's a lot to think about, folks. I hope people on all sides of the issue will think about it in more of a comprehensive term, or at least a more comprehensive, panoramic way. There's a lot going on here. Don't just cherry pick the certain parts you want to deal with. Look at the whole big picture and ask yourself why and who and what and where, because there's a lot going on here in this issue.
And follow the money. I think with a lot of issues, you'll hear me say this more than once. Follow the money. I think if you want to look at why things happen the way they do, more often than not, on a lot of different topics, on a lot of different issues, if you follow the money, you see who's profiting, you'll kind of understand better where some of these ideologies sort of come from, and why is there this sort of Team A versus Team B, or either pro-illegal immigration or anti-illegal immigration, and the motivations behind all this. It's people are profiting. There's people profiting on both sides of that, and none of them want to address the solutions, which would be taking out the drug cartels, using our advanced, incredible military to take out the drug cartels. I mean, look at what we did to Libya and Yemen under the Obama years, okay? Why can't we just blow up a couple of drug cartels? Why?
That's a great point, and
We killed many innocent civilians in Libya and
I,
Yemen, but we can't blow up one hot cartel hideout?
I did. There you go.
Baloney.
Exactly. It was something refreshing recently on the McLaughlin group. John McLaughlin's passed away, but they've got the show going again. They have this younger Englishman who's being the host these days, and it was funny. They brought up some illegal drug stuff recently on the show. I don't know, it was in the last 6 months or a year or so, and they brought it up, and again, most of the panelists just stood there. Oh well, there's so much demand for drugs, and what are you gonna do? And drugs keep coming in, and we we're a nation of drug users, and then they threw it back at the host at the end, and he was like, well, I could think of some militarized drones could go in and take out a bunch of cartels. So there you go, folks. Who am I? I'm Jay. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. No, I mean, really, you people out there that think you're hot shit, let's turn it around. Instead of me acting like I'm hot shit, I'm not. But how did I just think of that? How did the guy in McLaughlin Group think of that? Why aren't we doing that? You need to be you, the listener, need to be thinking about that. I don't care what your politics are. Again, rich, poor, what your demographic is, what your skin pigmentation is. Think about that. Why aren't we doing that? We got drones now, baby. We've got satellites we've had for 50 years that can zoom in. We got Google Earth. Look at that, morons. We got Google Earth. We can zoom in on your house. That's your house. Why am I zooming in on your house? Who are you? Yeah. Are you El Chapo? Think about that. Think about that.
Yeah.
You can't zoom in and where they're at and then just send drones in there and just blow them all to bits? We as a country can't send a message to these huge cartels? You know what drugs should be, folks, in my opinion? Drugs should be, because I agree they're never going to go away. They're never going to go away. Cocaine and heroin should be things that only super rich people can get a hold of because it's so hard to get a hold of. And it'll always have a way of. There'll always be a way to get a hold of it. I agree. I'm not a total looking for utopia here. All drugs are going to disappear. No. But that's what they should be. Only super rich people can get a hold of them because they're that hard and that difficult to get a hold of. That's what drugs like heroin and cocaine should ultimately be. We'll have that conversation if you want to do that another show about legalization of drugs. I know there's some libertarians are for full-blown legalization.
There's a whole conversation to be had there.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think you'd have a lot of chaos. I don't know. Maybe you have a lot of population control, but you have a lot of chaos before you bring down the population.
You would need to have a lot of other government institutions in place for like rehabilitation and stuff like that. It's not just. I don't think the libertarian view is correct. But I don't know if everyone that's making that argument is making that whole like completely free argument. I think they're also probably calling for more rehabilitation. Take these billions we're spending on the drug war and turn those, instead of it being more of an aggressive, we're going to throw you in jail for drug use, turn it into more of like rehabilitation for people who have drug addictions and stuff like that. And so,
So that's a good point as well, and we'll have maybe just a whole drug show about that in another episode. But our border is very important. We have a right to control our border. We have a right to control our immigration, and I don't think that makes you a racist and a xenophobic and a hateful person at all. Okay. Yeah. Now, does there hate in the world, racism in the world? Sure, there is. There's all kinds of different races in the world. The American left hardly ever talks about all kinds of other racism that goes on all over the globe. They never talk about it. They just want to talk about very one-dimensional.
Hotel Rwanda, man. Go watch it. You want to see racism around the world? Go watch Hotel Rwanda.
All kinds of horrible things in a lot of different ways exist.
Pakistanis and Indians hate each other. They look identical.
But for anybody who
hate each other.
Anybody here who has any of those thoughts or feelings, let us be perfectly clear. This is a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. We are always going to have immigrants coming to our country from all over the globe, from all these other places. They all want to come here. Okay, so there you go. That says a lot right there. Then they will continue to come here. But every nation has a right to have its own immigration policies, and that doesn't make people hateful.
Just like you have a right to put a door on your home and a lock, and you have the right. We have the common courtesy of someone knocking on your door before they walk into your house. It's really basic, simple stuff, right? They're the sovereign country and the sovereign individual, right? You have a sovereignty to your space, to your house. You know, no one can just walk right in. You know, unless you know them, unless you're familiar with them, or what, and that's up to you as the individual too. You know, and so if that's something we want to open up our borders completely, we have to have that conversation. It has to be agreed upon as a nation, and I don't think that as a nation we agree that that's how we're going to operate. You know, I think that a small minority would want completely open borders or some sort of one world government type of ideal. I think most people are in favor for, you know, like what you're talking about. Every nation has a right to a sovereign border. Ask any other nation.
So, with that, we can wrap this up right now. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll all just be one big Mex America Canada. I don't know. North American Union. I don't know. We shall see. But anyway, this is a nation of immigrants. Everybody here, unless you are Sioux or Apache or Cherokee, Potawatomi, Adobe, etc., Seminole, etc., then you came from somewhere else. And your great grandparents came from somewhere else, and they settled here. And you're very blessed to be born here. If that's your case, or if you've migrated here, you're blessed to be here as well. It is a nation of immigrants, and our money even says that e pluribus unum, out of many, one. So there you go.
All right. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
Thank you.